thank you. Yes, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Chris Jones, and I'm from London. So I've just come to, just give you a brief history of AEGS, which is Adventure Game Studio, which is a little sort of project I started probably 10 years ago now, maybe even longer, back in the summer of '99 as I remember. So in fact, must be 12 years. 12 long years. So originally, why did it start? Well, I was just there, at home playing Space Quest 4 as it happened, and I was like, I was quite enjoying it, as I'm sure you all were. I was kind of into my adventure games and was playing them through, and I was just playing it and thought, this stuff's pretty cool, isn't it? So, I wonder if I can make my own game like this. And I was thinking, well, yeah, I could do, but it's pretty hard to do this stuff. So, I thought, And I also thought, well, how would I do it anyway? Because I don't know how to draw. I don't really have any skills at all. But I could dabble in a bit of code. I knew how to do a bit of sort of development. So I thought, okay, fine. Well, what I'll do then is I'll create a tool that I could use later when I've learned how to draw to make my adventure game with. So off I went and I started dabbling with it, and I came up with some little thing called Adventure Creator, as it was called at the time. Version 1, and it let you create these kind of, I suppose in a sense the same resolution we're doing today, these old 320 by 200 adventure games like Space Quest 4. So I created that, and I then sort of started to work on a game, but I realised very quickly, actually I still can't draw, so what do I do now? Now that would have just been it, and I did just junk it and put it to the side. But then, a couple of years later, the internet came along. Somebody invented it, or at least they told me about it. And I thought, okay, I'll tell you what, if I stick this on the internet, maybe somehow something will happen, and somebody might use it. And so that's what I did. I stuck it on the internet, and back in those days, I think there's only about 3 men and his dog that actually had an internet connection. But luckily, one of those 3 men did actually download the Adventure Creator, and made some, I can't remember what it was. It was like some shitty little one-room game that looked, it was a mess, but somebody had actually used it. And they sent me an email saying, I love this, look what I've done, look, I've made this. Because of course there's no forums or anything back then, so I just got this email, I was like, somebody's actually used it. So at that point it was like, okay, maybe if one person uses it, then maybe I've got another 2 men and a dog that might want to use it as well. So that kind of motivated me to go off and, continue and make it better. Because this guy who emailed this game to me said, yeah, but I want to do this, and I can't do it. How do I do it? And I was like, oh, actually no. You can't change, it has to be Roger. You can't change the character. You have to have this hand cursor, that's all you can do. So I was like, okay, well fine, that's not a problem. Then so I went off, toddled off, and sort of made some changes, added some stuff in so that you could use somebody who wasn't Roger and, change these things. I came back to this guy and said, here you go, what about this one? And I think at that point, that guy never got back to me, he just ignored it. But I put the new version on the internet as well, and some other people downloaded it. And gradually, one of these things, people started using it, somebody else sent the game in that was better and more impressive, and I thought, okay. And so that was then just a continual motivation to make further improvements so that they could improve what they'd already done. And that was the kind of 1999, sort of 2000 era. And then it became clear after I'd kind of bolted a few more and more bits onto this Adventure Creator thing that actually, this is all a bit of a mess. The way it works, it's not really, people are actually starting to do some quite impressive stuff here, and I can't take it anywhere. So at that point, over the summer, I can't remember now, probably the summer of 2001, let's call it that. I said, right, okay, let's junk that, let's start again, and let's do it properly this time, because actually people want to use it. And that became Adventure Game Studio, because if it's a new version 2, it had to have a new name. So that was what I called Adventure Game Studio, and that then supported all sorts of new features and stuff like that people wanted. And then from there on, really, it was just a gradual progression. People released a game, you looked at the game, thought, well, that's pretty impressive, added some features, new version, people added some more games, and so from there on, we had like quite a few years actually of gradual progression. And of course, at the time, I didn't realise there was any competition either, because I mean, the internet was a bit of a new invention. I didn't think you could search it and like find something. So as far as I knew, there was no other way of doing this. You know, there was no other tool. Of course, it turned out later that actually, yeah, there's loads of other tools you could use. And had I known that at the time, I would never have bothered creating AGS because I was using those tools. But luckily, I was.
At the same time, Chris, a lot of them failed whilst you were going.
A lot of them did fail. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know what happened, or it's all just one of these weird coincidences. But anyway, so carried on with that, and and gradually improved. And yeah, there was all these. Then I discovered gradually about these other tools that. So there was a Scram or something, and I can't remember the names of the others. There were some other ones that people were using and saying, "Oh, what about this?" And then I thought, "Oh, okay, there is another tool. I'll look at that one. Steal some features. That's a good idea. Let's add that to AGS as well." And I'm sure there's a bit of vice versa going on. And then yeah, that carried on for about I don't know, quite a few years actually, 6 or 7 years. A gradual improvement. I think we ended up on AGS version 3 point something a couple of years ago. And then. But you know how it is with life, so I've been dedicating quite a bit of my life to this, and obviously a lot of people, like yourselves, have been dedicating a lot of their lives to making games. And eventually, after so many years, you know, just life gets in the way, other things come along, and just didn't have the time to spend on it anymore. So, yeah, and that brings us to about a year ago, when I realised, actually, I'm no longer able to develop this in the way that I want to. I'm not satisfying the people, I'm not giving them what they want. So at that point is when I thought, okay, fine, it's finally time to open source this. So release the source code for most of it. I've still got to release the other bit, I won't go around to it. And so most of the source code's released now, and my hope being that other people will take it on and add whatever else needs to be added in order to let people continue making the great games that they've been making. But yeah, it's been quite a journey actually, because for me it all started probably 12 years ago. And along the way, I think it was in about 2002, so maybe 9 years ago, Mods was on the AGS forums and he said, "Hold on a minute, why don't we all get together?" And that was the first time I met other people from the community and all that. And then we've ended up having some like
everyone ever since, haven't you, pretty much?
We've had like an annual AGS meeting ever since called Mittens, where we've kind of met up once a year and gone on holiday somewhere. So, I mean, that side of it's been quite amazing as well. And obviously, you guys are all here today, all these sorts of things is amazing, because just to see that, adventure gaming is still out there, people are still making great games, and people are doing an amazing job.
Do you think eventually, Chris, you will just, now that you're getting on with your life, in 10 years you think, I could make an adventure game. How do I do that? Oh yeah. And we will
that might well happen, yeah.
That's it.
All I need to do...
we get to see the best of you, really.
So have you just made tools and not games?
Yeah, I tried to make a game once. It became the demo game of like AGS for a while. But it wasn't really much of a demo. In fact, it was quite the opposite, because you'd like download AGS and you'd run this demo and you'd think, oh, that's a bit shit, I don't want to use this. So in the end, I had to kind of get somebody else to read. I think even now the demo game is not a great indication of things, but still at the time it was a bit. So no, I mean, I've never had the artistic skills or the story writing skills or the audio skills. Basically any skill that you need to make a game.
You're programmers, so I mean,
exactly.
Sometimes these things don't overlap, so I mean, that is a skill, but...
It's a skill, yeah, it's one skill, but yeah, I mean, like, in theory, one thing I did always want to do was do like a team game, so I could have done like the scripting and some other people could have done like the art stuff, but yeah, it just never kind of panned out, I guess, so it's a bit of a shame. Maybe as Mod says, maybe in 10 years' time, when I've got little Chrissy running around the floor, I'll be sitting, I think, this kid's getting, what am I going to do? And I'll make a game.
Yeah.
So yeah, anything's possible. But yeah, I mean that's that's just a brief overview really of Adventure Game Studio, how it came about, the history, etc., and where it may or may not go in future.
Can you maybe explain the simplicity of it to other people, or just how you designed it to be for us, the users? I mean, because it's not hard. Anyone can pretty much get down to it.
Yeah, I suppose that's true. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of different stuff that's gone into the design of well, part of the reason why it was all redone. It's been kind of redone twice, still on version 3 now. So we had the first one, which didn't really do a lot, and that was kind of rewritten. And actually, there was a guy at the time, I forgot his name, he's long since disappeared, but he kind of came back, he used the first version, and came back with a lot of good feedback about, well, what about if you structured it like this instead, and it'd be much better if we could do this and then this, rather than having it over there, and all those sorts of things. And that's the thing, because although I wasn't really making games myself, so sometimes it was hard for me to see, like, actually how people are using this thing, and is it structured the right way, does it give you the easiest workflow, if we business term it up. And then the same thing happened when the third version, we kind of redid it then again. People came back with some feedback saying, well, really, the whole way this works isn't quite the right way around, because I prefer to do this, I create my views before I create my sprites or whatever it was. So it was all just kind of working around that. And just gradual feedback from people has just shaped things over time. So we've ended up what we've got today. And I think, nowadays there's Wintermute as well, obviously. We'll see. Hey, it's all good. But so it's good to have some competition, I guess.
Things, Chris, is commercial games. That's things people often worry about, especially at the forums. What is your opinion on the way it's used for that? Because it's still early sort of times for that in AGS terms. But
people making commercial
people
games.
People are going to make a lot of money off that, eventually. If you look at all the money made over the years when little Chris is running around.
For commercial games, it's an interesting thing, because I've noticed some people have quite a strong feeling that everything made at AGS should be free, we should be making free, adventure games, but I don't really see a problem with it if some people want to take it further, because a lot of people, probably a lot of yourselves included, put a hell of a lot of time into making freeware games. And if it's your own time and your team time with your friends or group, then that's fine, it's a fun project to do. I think as soon as you up the notch to the point where you need to start hiring in talent, if you decide you want to compete with the mainstream sort of gaming industry, you have to take things up a few notches. You have to make the resolution higher, you have to have your own properly custom-made sound and music and everything. And often it's just not possible to get that for free. So as soon as you have to hire in talent and start paying people to make things for you, then it's only understandable that you need to make some return on it yourself in order to pay those people for the work they've done. So I don't have any objections to commercial games, put it that way. I think if people can use AGS or any other tool to make adventure games that are commercially viable and commercially successful, then I think that's brilliant, because it's just bringing adventure gaming back to the masses again. And I was talking with a couple of people earlier today about, maybe the whole tablets and phones and stuff that we've got nowadays actually provides quite a good opportunity for adventure games to come back into the mainstream. You can, rather than trying to flog an adventure game for 30 quid, which are people going to buy it? Don't know. But if you get into the thing where, like we were saying, like with the Been There, Done That, flog it for a couple of quid, just the sheer volume of sales, and actually maybe now adventure gaming is commercially viable.
And they've got some of the shittest graphics going. To be fair. Well, they have. They even reference it in game, but it's still a really good game. It's almost an example that you don't need. It's so well written that they actually got by without having decent graphics, and you cannot say that Been There, Done That or Time Gentleman Please has got decent graphics. That's part of its charm. It's stylised.
Artistically,
I'm not going to
it's the job.
Yes,
not in a literal sense.
But that's the thing. There's new outlets nowadays with stuff like the app stores and Steam and all that. There's new ways of distributing content to the point where, actually, we're not going to. Maybe we can't sell an adventure game for 30 quid and make money that way. But maybe we can actually sell it for £1 or £2 and sell 1 million copies, and then actually we've got £1 million. So. I think there's definitely a future.
What about porting of AGS, Chris? Will that come in the form of people able to, when it gets even more open source, or?
I think there's already people working on ports. I know I've seen somebody's ported it to the PSP. I think somebody's ported it to Android phone. Yeah. I think somebody's updating the Mac port now to the latest version. So, with the fact that it's open source now, it's definitely again like porting something that people have wanted for a long time, and I never had time to do it myself. And so that's something that now people are looking at. And it looks like it's happening. So that's really good.
If people choose to use your software, will you commercially? Are you going to take a license fee? Is that something you?
There's no requirement on that. No, I mean there have been a couple of commercial games in the past that have offered me like a percentage of their profits or whatever, but there's no requirement on that, and I don't want there to be a requirement on that because I want people to feel free to just make the games, let the creativity go, and not worry about whether they have to pay for the tool or not. So no. So does anyone else have any questions?
Do you find you still have time to actually play a bunch of games?
To be honest, nowadays no, and that's a shame. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, but yeah, it is a shame. It's one of those things you keep telling yourself, "Oh, I want to do this, and I want to do this, and I want to play that," and it all stacks up, and you have a big to-do list of things to do, and it's on there somewhere. Maybe the Christmas period will provide a perfect opportunity for this. So let's see.
Drag yourself away from the family, lock yourself in the room.
Oh, that's so tempting.
Tell them you need, if you're going to come through that door, you need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or better still, try and give them presents just by combining objects that you already have on your person.
Way ahead of you. Way ahead of you. Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions?
Where do you see the future of AGS in terms of, I don't know, I suppose kind of like product placement? That sounds very businessy, doesn't it? But where do you see it going now? Now that it's open source, where do you think, in terms of functionality or what things it could be used for? I mean, you've intimated, and I agree with you, about possibilities for kind of niche markets opening up on Android and iPad and tablets in general and that kind of thing. But what about other things to do with the actual program? What would you like to see into it, apart from other ports?
Yeah, well, I think that's one of the problems at the moment. Now that I've kind of, because I was always in charge of doing everything, and since open sourcing it, what it really needs is some sort of leadership, some sort of project manager almost, to just direct AGS, because I think now we've got the source code released, we've got people doing their own little tweaks to it, making their own versions of it here, their own versions of it here, and it needs somebody to pull all that together, define a direction for it, say these are the features we want to add, these features we don't really need, let's have them as a plugin or something, and that's the problem. I would hoped I would have time to do that. As it turns out, I don't think I have really. So it needs somebody else to have a strong vision, I suppose, and take control. And yeah, just sending the direction. But I think it's definitely kind of the whole mobile arena in the last couple of years has really changed. The whole scene has changed with what phones and tablets and everything can do now. So there's definitely the iPad type tablets almost sort of lend themselves perfectly to adventure games in terms of their size and everything, and so I'm quite optimistic that we've got a future there.
Well, thank you very much, Chris Jones.
No problem at all.